Broadcasting from Cordova, Alabama, throughout the United States and around the world. You are listening to the Corinth Baptist Church worship service. Sit back, open your hearts, and prepare to worship.
Hello, everybody. We're going to do Sunday, March 15th, Sunday school lesson, Corinth Baptist Church. I hope everyone is doing great today. We were just talking, the preacher and us, we're talking about folks that have been recently in the hospital. His mother, Miss Bonnie Lockhart, has had a stent put in. She had 90% blockage in one artery, so they stented that, and she's already back home. And God is great. God is wonderful. And Lakin, you've heard us talking about Lakin before. I believe she is already back home from Colorado, where she's been doing therapy, and she is doing great and on the road to recovery. So just continue to pray for these people and pray for everyone. Pray for me that I can do this lesson and hopefully y'all will get something out of it. Today, this is session 2 out of this book, and the purpose of humanity. And it shows a big picture on page 28 of this book, and it shows a picture of a crowded laundry room, and it has a question under it. It says, what is your least favorite household responsibility? There's a story that ties to this picture on page 29, and whoever wrote this lesson, I assume that they wrote this story. It says, one of my responsibilities around the house is to take out the trash. He said, let me tell you, I'm a horrible at it. When I enter the house at night, I can tell by a single look from my wife whether I have fulfilled my end of that bargain. Sometimes it's not even a look. It's an outright, straight to the point question. Did you take out the trash today? And so taking out the trash is not even a difficult task. Trash bins are right by the back door, and somehow I always manage to forget to do this one simple, obvious thing. As kids, many of us dreaded responsibility. And we know firsthand that responsibility is handed to us in greater measure as we get older. Responsibility is not a bad thing. God has built responsibility into us, and He gave it to us when He put us on the earth. He coded us for it, and He gave us the tools to carry it out. It's up to us to recognize what our responsibility is and carry that responsibility out. We're in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 through 5, and 26 through 31. Chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of the Lord moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. This lesson, now, I'm going to try to divide it up into 3 parts. The first part, I'm going to call it created. This was when he says, he talks about we. And so we talk about He was not alone when the creation was going on. I believe Jesus was with Him, and I think He took a part in it. The first part will be created. The second part will be image, because we're made in God's image. And thirdly, subdue, because to bring into subjection. However, while humans are called to put creation under their authority, this is only possible as they stand under God's authority. So, the first part, created, the Hebrew word bara, B-A-R-A, describes the activity of making when we used in the Old Testament. God is always the one performing the creative action because He created everything that we see. We go outside, He's the heavens and the earth, the trees, the forest, everything you can think of, He has created. Now this lesson, I've tried to separate 3 parts of this lesson so we can understand it better. And when you think about it, the book of Genesis is the very first book of the Bible. But when you talk about when Adam and Eve were in the garden, there was not a Bible. There was not anything but them two and God. He would come down and visit. And so when there was no talk about to anyone else but them 3, they knew who God was. They knew what He had given them and what their purpose was. But when you fast forward a few thousand millennia, or a few hundred, if you will, when other people started learning about God and who He was and what He was about, the question about what are, and you come across a person that has no idea who God is. So you have 3 questions. What are they familiar with? Who do we need to tell them, or what do we need to tell them about God? And how do we bridge the gap between these 2? So the Israelites were the first people, and Moses was among them in the desert. We all know the story. They were wandering in the desert for 40 years. And Moses had the tablets. He had the 10 Commandments on the tablets. He had been to see God. And so these people, these Israelites, were what they call in this lesson the original audience to learn about God. So what are they familiar with? They don't have any idea who God is. And what do we need to tell them? What does Moses need to tell these people? How does he get this idea, this concept over to them? What do they need to know about God? So these people, they didn't have a Bible to read as we do. Whatever we want to, whatever subject we want to look at in the Bible, all we got to do is just look it up. They didn't have that. They had to have someone to explain it to them. So these first people who read it were mostly the Israelites, and they were wandering in the desert. But they had been freed from slavery in Egypt, and God was behind that. So that was one thing that they needed to know, who had freed them. What they knew about God had been passed down orally from other people ahead of them. And that's the way that they would pass it on to their children, and their children would do the same thing and keep it going from generation to generation. So as they wandered in the desert, they would come in contact with other people, or they had other people amongst their group. People from Egypt, Canaanites, Hittites, and these groups, if they were perceived, while they were talking to them, getting to know them, if they were perceived as more civilized than they were, what do you think would happen? They might be tempted to think the way they told the story about God was more established. And so they might lean a little bit toward the way they told it. It might not be correct, but they might lean a favorable ear toward their idea. Was the Egyptians right? Maybe. Was the world birthed out of a cosmic egg? Or perhaps they should consider the Mesopotamian belief that all we know about was created out of the carcass of one of the old deceased liturgy gods. And so in Genesis 1, it reveals a wholly different account. One that quickly cuts to the chase. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. It's almost as if the writer were saying, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. Now, y'all listen to me what I'm saying. You're hearing all kinds of confusing things from all kinds of different people. And you're fixing to get in trouble. Be careful who you listen to. Let me tell you about who is really in charge. And you pay attention to me. What he did and how you can, what he did, which was God, and how you can know him. So, the Bible, or biblical worldview, is unique in that not only do we know who created everything, if you go outside, like I said, you look around, everything under your eyes, God created. We can also have a personal relationship with him. God invites us to have a relationship with him through Jesus. And we have access to the Father, the creator of the universe, the stars in the heavens at night, the moon and stars, and the sun during the day. Jesus is he's in a special position to do that for us, because not only is he one with the Father, he was actually present, like I said, at creation. The Word, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And it says in the Bible, it calls the Word, and that is Jesus. The Word was with God in the beginning, John 1, chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Not a single thing that's been created was created apart from Jesus. Colossians 1, 16 through 17. If you look up at the night sky, you see stars. You can see some of the nearer planets. You can see the moon and things of that nature. If you are to look down under your feet with a microscope, you can see an entire system of ecosystem of bacteria that work together in harmony to make sure the plants grow. So God had everything under control, under his dominion. God did all this simply by his word. He spoke it into existence. And the creator of all of that, what has invited us into a relationship with him, to know him deeply, to remain in him forever. God, one thing you have to remember, God made man from something. He reached down and picked up a handful of dust off the ground, and he blew life into it. So he started with something when he made man. But everything else he spoke into existence. Genesis chapter 1, 26 and 27. And God said, let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the earth, the air, and over the cattle, and all over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. What we need to pay attention to in this part is image. We were created in his image. That's in verse 26. Humanity's reflection of God, it cannot be reduced to a list of qualities. Instead, it encompasses every aspect of our being. It encompasses everything that we come in contact with. And get some more water. For example, some Christians look at the image of the cross, and that image causes them to contemplate Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. Unfortunately, some people tend to worship an icon rather than the one it represents. They want to wear a gold cross around their neck, or they want to have rosary beads, or whatever. They want to worship it rather than Jesus himself. So they get confused on what they're supposed to worship. And they talk about icons. At this day and age, we have many icons, and they're tied to our television. You see them on our televisions. You see them on our phones. You tap a picture on your phone, and this application takes off. And the word for that picture is an icon, an image that points you somewhere else, takes your eyes off of what you need to. In Genesis 1, 26-27, the word translated image is the Hebrew word Selem, S-E-L-E-M. The word is used 16 times in the Old Testament. And most of the time it is used negatively. For example, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, and destroy all their molten images, and quick pluck down all their high places. However, in Genesis 1, God was not talking about stone images or icons or apps on our phone. He was talking about us. And he said something amazing about how he made us. To be made in the image of God means we are made with something the rest of creation doesn't have. Think about what makes humanity different from your dog or your cat or whatever. Our ability to think, reason, and process morality is different than anything else in creation. We have the capacity to adapt and tame the land around us, no matter what that land looks like. But the most unique thing about us is that we are created to be God's representatives. God made everything, but he made humanity with the unique responsibility of being his representative on earth. As his image bearers, we are created to rule over the animals and over the earth. And the Hebrew word rada is translated have dominion. We're supposed to be over everything on this earth. It means to subjugate, to have dominion, or to reign. And humans made in God's image are capable of thinking, discerning, and making choices as God's ruling representatives. Of governing the earth in his place. The third point is Genesis 1:28-31, and it is subdue. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, and it shall be used for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life. I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So the key word in this verse is subdue. That's in verse 28. To bring into subjection. However, while humans are called to put creation under their authority, this is only possible as they stand under God's authority. And so, as being created in his image, he didn't just place us in an elevated position in creation to sit and bask in it. He tasks us with being caretakers and to live in a way that brings honor to him. God gives us three tasks: to be fruitful and fill the earth, subdue the earth, and relish everything that God made, because he made it all to be enjoyed. We've been tasked with filling the earth and tending to it, but these commands go far deeper than just polluting the earth. It's about spreading God's image far and wide. In other words, his word, and make everyone know, or just go tell everyone about him. God not only gives us direction on what to do, he also provides what we need to sustain our life. In verses 29 and 30, points to some ways God has blessed us by listing the plants, the seeds, and the fruit he provided for us for food. So he's looking out for us as well. He is what is known as the benevolent provider. He has ensured both humans and animals will have all they need to survive. But this so-called self-made person, there is no such thing. Everything they have, they may have more than some other people, but they didn't do it themselves. God gave them the ability and the strength to do this and bless them. It's called they are a myth because of all his what they have is through his abundant provision. So think of how blessed we are. We get to know our Creator in a personal way, and we get to care for his creation, and we get to be his image bearers. So this realization leads us to see things differently. It changes the way we see the people around us. They also were created to be image bearers. It changes the way we see the earth around us. We have been tasked to care for it. And finally, it changes the way we see ourselves, and we have within us the very markings the Creator gave us to represent him. So I hope you got something out of this lesson today. And that's all for today.
You have been listening to Corinth Baptist Church Worship Service with Reverend Mark Lockhart. We pray you have received a blessing and invite you to join us on Facebook, Spreaker, or iTunes. Until next time, God bless you is our prayer.